Today on Locked On Canadiens, can two podcasters fix the Habs power play? You're about to find out on Locked On Canadiens.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to episode 898, everybody. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more and visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. My name is Laura Sab, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Scott Matla. And the Active Stick, I think, is a good thing that could fix the Habs power play. Scott, are you ready today to solve the world's problems with me?
I mean, like, in terms of where the Habs power play ranks on here, like top five, like just below like global warming, but like just above like Orcas mauling billionaires is not a world problem. So like definitely top five, I'm pretty sure.
Exactly this. Before we get started, we wanted to say a couple of things. First is to correct. We said that Logan Cooley was a Hobey Baker winner. He's in fact the runner-up to Adam Fantilli. That is our bad. We recorded so early on a Sunday morning, and I'm sure, as you know, what people do on Saturday nights. So we were having fun, potentially imbibing a thing or two, whatever it is. But both of us, for whatever reason, forgot that Adam Fantilli won the Hobey Baker. But the point stands that Lane Hudson was robbed. That's what we want to get across. That's what we care about. Anyway, and the other thing that we wanted to say was real quick, in the Pittsburgh trade, there were a lot of questions about the prospect that the Montreal Canadiens received in that crazy three-way trade. If you haven't watched or listened to the episode that Scott did on that on Sunday, he put out an emergency podcast right away. Please do listen. But we asked Tony for a quick soundbite on Nathan Legare, or Legare. So it's basically essentially he is a 22-year-old who could potentially be an NHL fourth liner. That's kind of his ceiling. He's a bottom six AHLer at this point. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the Laval lineup a little bit later as part of our mailbag questions. And we are going to talk about fixing the Habs power play. But first, Scott, you were on the wonderful Habs Minded podcast with Patrick Bexell to do your episode for the top 25 under 25. I did one too. I recorded one too. I can't tell you who it is or when it's launching or when it's dropping because that will spoil where my particular player landed. But Scott, you did a couple of players with Patrick. Do you want to talk about that a little bit and also talk about, where people can find that podcast?
Yes. So Patrick reached out to me, and originally we were going to record on the previous Sunday, this last Sunday before that. And then Kent Hughes decided to be like, hey, you all wanted some content, right? So here's some content, and that I spent all Sunday working on things related to that. Patrick and I pushed it back, and I ended up recording with him on Monday mid-morning before I went to go visit some accounts for my job. And we talked Jesse Ylönen and Riley Kidney, both one will be in the Laval Rocket lineup. One will now likely be a Montreal Canadien, thanks to the trade that sent Pitlick and Mike Hoffman out of Montreal to Pittsburgh and San Jose. And it's been a long while. I know that I talk about prospects a lot on this show, but it's been a long time since I've been brought on to something to talk specifically about just two players. And that's obviously available wherever you listen to your regular podcast and at the bottom of both the Kidney and Ylönen profiles at Habs EOTP, the new one, in which you can become a patron and help us support our independent endeavor. Obviously, we have been separate of Vox Media for a couple of months now. I keep hitting my laptop because I am definitely in top podcasting form today. There's the top 25 under 25 is always fun because you learn a lot about the people who are voting and even just people you work with on how they value certain prospects. Someone like Hattie Kalakash, who obviously is very prospect focused, has, his favorites. I have my favorites. For a long time, I had a large bias towards ranking guys from the AHL a little bit higher. And when Patrick and I were talking about Jesse Olonen in particular, because Patrick covered him when he was playing in Finland, playing in Liga, and we both came to the same conclusion that he's probably ranked lower than he could be because there's so many new prospects in here, and there were so many surprises in the Canadiens lineup and amongst prospects last year. Players like Redacted and players like Redacted and Redacted are higher on the list, and I can't tell you what they are for fear that Justin and Jared and Patrick and everybody else will yell at me for ruining the series. But his spot isn't indicative of what his overall skill set is. And for Riley Kidney is someone I'm very excited to see with the Rocket this year, because back-to-back dominant point total seasons in the QMJHL. And yes, it's the QMJHL. They're known for points. There's a lot to be excited about when your 19th ranked prospect put up 110 points last year. I think that's a pretty good problem to have if you're the Montreal Canadiens.
I will not disagree with you there. There's a ton of really good content in that top 25 under 25. It is a Habs and Eyes on the Prize joint, essentially, but lots of the Habs community talks about it. In fact, somebody emailed us and said, where do I find this? It is on habseyesontheprize.com. Habsent Minded is the podcast, and a lot of, the Habs communities on there. Patrick has taken a lot of time to kind of find new voices as well. And in fact, I have taken advantage of that, and we will be bringing new voices onto this podcast this upcoming season to talk about so many other players and prospects. We're very, 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 very excited about that. And I think in the meantime, I did kind of want to turn our attention to the mailbag, the weekly mailbag. Sorry, I'm like losing my mind here. We have forgotten how to podcast. So we've had a little bit of a few days of a hiatus because we had to do an emergency episode on Sunday. But I wanted to really, I didn't get a chance to weigh in on the trade. And all I wanted to say about that is that there's a lot of people that are kind of laughing when one of us says that this was a big win for Kent Hughes. How is it not a win? I'm sorry. How is this not a win for Kent Hughes? I don't understand. Like, I think San Jose got fleeced, absolutely fleeced in an Erik Karlsson trade, but they really didn't have a choice because he was going elsewhere no matter what. I think Kyle Dubas did a tidy bit of work, but I love that Kent Hughes stepped in, was, the I will do your money laundering for you team this year. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to envision how this came about. There's so many moving parts, but at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that's so important is that the Montreal Canadiens unloaded Mike Hoffman. To me, that is the key part. Sorry.
And the big thing is that we didn't know going into this trade is that Rem Pitlick had requested a trade as well. So he was looking for a fresh start, obviously kind of seeing the writing on the wall, which is fair.
Yeah, and there's Hoffman, too many prospects.
Yeah, and Hoffman, to his credit, mentioned he's like, I didn't play up to the level that I needed to while I was there. I'm hoping, I can get my game back in San Jose, et cetera. But he had nothing but good things to say about his time in Montreal. And I know that he was not everybody's favorite and the contract and this and that. To leave after 2 years where it could have been a festering crap hole of a team and not is a positive sign that the Canadiens are moving in the right direction cultural wise. And my biggest thing with this is that San Jose didn't make out well, but they also now in the rebuild cleaned $10.5 million off their books, or $10 million off their books to kind of play around with some free agency. They're going to lose some other names here in the next couple of years and have money to spend and hopefully prospects that have developed to fill in that void. And, you can listen to Locked On Sharks. JD, our good friend, does a really good job going through that. But Pittsburgh now has their big four, and Montreal cleared some cap off their books. And we'll talk, next week about Petrie rumors and everything else, where he's going to end up, just because there's probably a lot to be done on that. And I need to look at the cap situation around the league because there's a lot. There's a very clear hierarchy of how this goes. You can't say that this wasn't a win for the Canadiens when even people outside this fan base are looking at this and going, they shed 2 contracts and they opened up space and they're probably going to flip at least one of the guys they got in this. Where's the downside?
Speaking of winning, the Montreal Canadiens, I've apparently forgotten not just how to podcast, but how to speak. The Montreal Canadiens will need to win some games, and they'll need a power play to help them do that if they have any hope of improving. And so we're going to get into the mailbag in just one moment, in which we will discuss power play units, because that is one of our mailbag questions. But first, football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. So let's get into our Friday mailbag. I love, it's getting closer and closer. I know we talk about August being the doldrums, but it's getting closer and closer to the season because, people are asking a little bit more specific questions in the mailbag. And one of them today is about our power play. And again, I want to remind everyone, if you want to send us mailbag questions, send us your questions to lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Leave them in the YouTube comments, or you can also tweet them as long as Twitter continues to exist, or whatever it is, X now. You can send them to us on those channels as well at LO_Canadiens. Our first question from Jim. Who do you project to be on the Habs Power Play 1 and Power Play 2 units to start the year? If the Habs stay healthy, where do you think the Habs Power Play will rank? I think that's a loaded question there. If the Habs stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to just knock on wood over here real quick. Power Play 1, there are 3 names I think I would like to see on this, but I can also defer one of them just because they might need a little help on one of the other lines there. I think Power Play 1 should have Caulfield, Suzuki, and Doc as your 3 forwards, or at least 3 of the forwards on there. Running the point is good. Should be Mike Matheson on Power Play 1. He doesn't have to be the shooting person on this, but he has the mobility to, make a power play not seem so static. And then the 5th option, maybe it's someone like Jesse Ylönen, maybe it's a, Justin Barron, or maybe it's somebody else if they want to run 2 defensemen there. And my thought is you let Kirby Dach operate behind the net. You flank Caulfield to a circle. You have Suzuki kind of going between the slot and the right face-off dot. You have Matheson as your distributor, and then you have whomever your 5th forward is on that first power play kind of out there just to facilitate a little bit. On Power Play 2, you have Sean Monahan is taking your draws. It's what he's very good at. It's what he should be doing in this situation. I think Justin Barron and I know that a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at this. Someone like Jordan Harris, who does a very good job at just distributing the puck, is not a bad option. He doesn't have to be the feature point. We as Canadiens fans got very used to defensemen being the point of emphasis on the power play here when it was PK Subban and Andrei Markov. Before that, when it was Sheldon Surrey, when it was Shea Weber. And if Jeff Petrie is staying, which I don't think he is, I think as a Power Play 2 quarterback, Petrie's not a bad option there because he can run that power play and be effective there. You have Alex Newhook, you have Josh Anderson, and you have Jesse Ylönen on that second power play. Monahan is your draw guy. You have Newhook and Anderson. Anderson can go front of the net, work in front there with his hands. You can have Ylönen as your shooter in the left faceoff circle where he made his bread and butter in Laval. And you can have someone like Newhook being your distributor out there and making a lot happen. Well, Petrie or Barron or whomever is kind of your pivot at the point there and keeps the puck moving through the cycle in there. If they are healthy, I'm not aiming for a lot. Be like 19th and I would be ecstatic. Just don't be in that bottom third. Be outside that bottom third and show improvement. You don't have to score on every power play. It'd be great if you did, but just show me some improvement. Show me that you have learned from your mistakes, which was just all of last year. Don't make it all about Caulfield so they can hone in on that. Get creative with it because you have creative players to operate within this situation.
I think especially for Martin St. Louis, creativity is going to be the name of the game. Like, to me, that's what I think he cherishes and he thrives on. And to be honest, you need to be able to keep opponents guessing. That's really it. Like, if they figure you out right away, they're going to put pressure on your power play. Even if they are down a man, they're going to be able to counteract it. So I think that's like, I think for me, the most important thing is to constantly be dynamic, constantly be thinking new, not new things, just like constantly keep the opponents guessing. All right, so we've got a really great question from our friend Blaine at Habs Unfiltered. What is one hockey rule you wish could exist but doesn't at the moment?
So it's funny is that this rule now does kind of exist. If you fight in a hockey game, your night is over. You are done. And if there is reason for supplemental discipline, there will be. The QMJHL is instituting this, that if you fight, you are done for the night and you face at least a 1-game suspension and supplemental discipline, which good. You are children. Stop punching each other in the face. And for the NHL, you're never going to stop fighting in hockey because of the nature of the game. And need to make that very clear that I understand that. And don't get me wrong, everybody loves a good fight, even me, who thinks that fighting in hockey is insanely stupid. I want to see how this graduates through the other leagues here, because fighting numbers have been down with newly implemented plans in junior hockey in the AHL, following the lead of the NCAA and university hockey in Canada and leagues in Europe, that fighting is seen as, well, against the rules and not part of the game. Yeah, you get a 5-minute penalty, but like if you do this and break these rules, done. Hitting someone in the head usually gets you kicked out of a game. Hitting them in the head a bunch of times with your fist doesn't make it any different or any better. So I'd like to see how the QMJHL rules continue to snowball forward, because if you're going to fight, okay, but know that there are consequences for that. You shouldn't be able to just freely kind of do whatever you want in there and go sit in the box for 5 minutes and that makes it okay.
Right. And honestly, like, I think that should make people think twice about whether or not a fight is actually warranted, because there's some players that just absolutely lose their heads all over the ice and just start going after people for no reason, or staged fighting. I think that's so stupid. Like, I think, again, like you said, you're never going to get rid of fighting in hockey, but at least make it so that it's not unnecessary and superfluous. And, like you said. All right, this one is an interesting one from Brady. Assuming Calgary makes the playoffs this upcoming year, should Montreal exercise the option for the Calgary first this year, or hope that the Flames are worse next season?
So I don't think the Flames are going to be very good this year. I don't think the Flames are going to be very good next year either. They are a team that is teetering on that cusp of our window is closed. Kind of like where the Winnipeg Jets are at as well, is that only the Jets have kind of extended it a little bit, maybe depending on the whole how they do without Pierre-Luc Dubois, etc. But my thought is that if they are bad this year, because is this year, I believe it's top 10 protected. I have to reread the laundry list of things on here. But if they're bad this year, they're probably not going to be any better next year, because they will probably sell off and trade pieces and start their rebuild. There's not really a wrong answer here. And a lot of it also depends on where are the Canadiens here. Are you going to want to be contending by 2025 and you'd rather have that other prospect sooner to add into the mix? Or do you wait till 2025? And if the Flames are truly, truly bad, like draft lottery bad, there's a guy named Michael Misa. I'll ask Lauren. She would definitely know how to pronounce this. Who is already tearing it up in the OHL as an exceptional status player. That go for it in that case. A lot of it, I think, depends on where the Canadiens are at. And if they think so, they'll take the sooner one, add to their prospect pool, and start trying to push for contention sooner. They want another year. They'll wait and they'll take that 2025 unprotected first and cash in on whoever happens to be there when Calgary is picking.
We've got plenty of mailbag questions coming up next here on Locked On Canadiens. All right, this one comes from Jeffers84, one of our good friends. What is the expected Laval lineup? Scott, that is your area of expertise.
Well, this one's hard because, you know,
There's a lot of players.
Yeah, defense. I'm going to do what I usually do here, and I'm just going to pull up the Elite Prospects Rocket page here to see some of the names who are on there right now. In net, I'm assuming they're going to try and squeak Caden Primo through waivers, and you're going to have Jakob Dobish and Caden Primo as your two goalies this year. Maybe he makes it. Maybe he doesn't. On defense, Nicolas Baudin, Toby Paquette Bisson or Toby Bisson, Brady Keeper, Matthias Norlinder and Miguel Torini, I think are going to be in there. You're also going to have Logan Mailloux. You're going to have William Trudeau as well. There's going to be some of these guys playing in the ECHL. They will carry some extra defensemen, but I do think that you're going to see some of these other prospects playing with the Lions this year. The Noah Lowen, Olivier Galipo, I think, is going to be hanging around the Rocket. He was a big fan of JF Houle. Christopher Ortiz, David St. Louis, a big fan. I think he's someone they want to get a really good look at and have them make that tough decision. This is where things get complicated. In the forward core, Raphael Harvey-Pinard is gone. Jesse Ilonen is gone. There is no Michael Pezzetta this year. Lucas Condata will likely be fighting for a spot at camp, but will probably be back with the AHL club. Sean Farrell is not on this roster. I think Sean Farrell will be down here as well, just due to space. Joshua Waugh is not. Nope, there he is. Riley Kidney's on here too, but you will have Elias Anderson. You will have Gabriel Bork, who is your team captain, Lucas Condata, Brandon Gignac, Nathan Legere, Philippe Maillet. You will have potentially Jan Mishak, maybe. Joshua Waugh, Mitchell Stevens will definitely be there as well. Plus, like I said, Sean Farrell will likely be down with this lineup too, just because bodies. It's a bodies thing, first and foremost. There's an opportunity for someone like a Riley McKay, a John Parker Jones, Alex Olivier Voyer, who is a little bit older. And one of the names in here that I'm very curious about, and it's a former Senators draft pick. He is unsigned right now, but he played at Northeastern and then came to the ECHL last year after finishing his college career out. And in 14 games, he put up 12 points, and that is Yakov Novak. He is from Ontario. He's signed to an AHL contract. He is still unsigned by the Senators, which is a weird thing for me. But I think that kind of encompasses the Rocket will probably carry a couple of extra forwards. They have, based on what is on Elite Prospects right now, 4 goalies, 8 defensemen, 15 forwards, a little bit more than usual. You assume Zachary Amon and Strauss Mann will go down to the ECHL. Some of these defensemen will go down there. The Rocket are going to have and I said this last year too, is that they have a very fun, full team, assuming they can keep the injury bug to the side at the NHL level at this point.
That's the hope. I don't know that they will necessarily be able to, though. I don't know. I'm not feeling very optimistic about they did fire those trainers, so, everything's going to be okay this year, but we'll see. All right, we've got some more questions from our lovely, lovely listeners. Randy Hansen asks, if you were Kent Hughes, now remember, you're Kent Hughes, not Scott Matla, what is your dream vacation spot?
Honestly, if I'm Kent Hughes, I feel like a lot Canadian general managers, or Canadian hockey folks, pick one of two things. They go to Banff or somewhere in the mountains in BC, or they go to the Caribbean. There's never any in between. It feels like we went to the mountains or we went to the beach. And for Kent Hughes seems like a Banff kind of person, to just going and enjoying the mountains and the solitude and throwing his phone into a lake for the month of August after he makes a trade for Jeff Petrie. That seems like the Kent Hughes that I would think of. Don't
forget Muskoka.
Yeah, he doesn't play for the Leafs. He's not the general manager of the Leafs. So, oh, sorry, that was Mimico for a while, which isn't even a real place apparently.
Mimico, Ontario. All right. Then Randy wants to know, which is better, Barbie or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Spoiler alert, both are excellent.
So
I've only seen Barbie.
Same. I do want to go see TMNT just because I love the animation style that they've put in there. Barbie was fantastic, which if you're mad at the movie, you're taking away the wrong point. But Barbie was very, very good.
Related question is a nemesis question. Actually, let's skip that first. Skip that and go first to our good friend Robert Rice. Which current member of the Canadiens roster is likely banned from choosing music from the locker room? Wrong answers only.
Brendan Gallagher.
No, wrong answers only.
Oh, wrong answers only? Well, yeah. Joel Edmondson's gone now, so they need a new DJ.
Sean Monahan seems like a DJ.
I bet you it's Josh Anderson is probably the one who actually picks the music now. But like, if we're talking like who's actually banned, like it's got to be, it's Brendan Gallagher, right?
It's got to be, yeah, for sure. All right, nemesis question time. Will asks, if you could replace the voice of a famous animated character with a stereotypical French-Canadian accent, who would it be and why?
So a famous animated character, but a stereotypical French-Canadian accent?
I mean, the obvious answer is Splinter.
I mean, that's very good. My first thought was like someone from Looney Tunes, but like that just kind of fits the whole vibe of it like a lot more. And my first thought, I want it to be Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, just in a French-Canadian accent the entire time.
Does Yoda count as an animated character?
He can. He was in the Clone Wars, and I believe he was in Rebels, so I'm willing to count it. So
okay, just imagine Yoda as a French-Canadian. All right, I think that's it.
On this street there are.
Potholes.
Here's the thing: I can't do a French Canadian accent and a Yoda accent at the same time, so you're getting that right now. Sorry.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for these mailbag questions. I love that the closer we get to the season, the more Habs and hockey ice and on ice related they are. Please keep them coming. LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com. That is the best way to submit mailbag questions nowadays because we don't know what Twitter is anymore. But on that, we're LO_Canadiens. You can also leave mailbag questions in the YouTube comments. Just put mailbag question at the very beginning so we know to bring it up on our Friday episode. In the meantime, we will hopefully be back to our regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday summer schedule next week unless Kent Hughes decides to do something fun again. Thank you so much for listening. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And we will talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.